But first of all, I want to welcome you all for today's dialogue. Um, I'm Solofina Nekesa, Professional Officer for Urban Systems with ICLI Africa, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Kilimane Food Systems Dialogue. So this is the first in a series of 13 dialogues that will be hosted in 17 African cities. And we hope that in these discussions, they are small, they are meaningful, but then we're able to tease out or to capture some of the key concerns, but then also focus on actions around food systems in cities. Before we start, I would just like to remind you of our dialogue protocols. So this dialogue will be recorded, and therefore by participating, you're consenting to be recorded. And then when we enter periods of discussion, please, we hope you can eagerly participate in the plenary discussions. And you can use the raise your hand function when you're called upon, unmute yourself, and it would really be great if you can put on your video too so that we can see you. We also welcome active discussions and introductions in the chat boxes. And you can add your questions to the different discussants throughout the presentation. So interpretation from English to Portuguese is available and can be accessed by clicking the interpretation button. So with that brief introduction, I would like to start by, first of all, introducing the dialogue, and then we can hand over to our mayor to do the official opening before we can dive into the discussions. All right, I hope you can all see my screen. And can you hear me well?
Yep.
All right. So we've had back and forth discussions with colleagues from the Municipal Council of Kilimane, and we're also joined by different stakeholders working around food. And from that, we were able to identify the issue of strengthening Kilimany's agri-food system and actors through investment and innovation as one of as the key theme that they would want to focus the dialogue on. So today we would want to have it's going to be quite a brief program with speakers with a lot of focus on the discussions and breakout rooms that will happen. So we'll have an official opening by the mayor, then we'll have an overview of African City Food Exchange 2021, as well as the UN Food System Summit. And then we'll have discussions that will be setting the scene from different experts working around food. And this will be trying to understand what urban food systems are, but then also looking at what the concept of agro-invest means in the urban food systems. And with really focusing on the Kilimane context. So then after this, we'll have the breakout discussions, which will be broken down into the 5 action tracks. I'll come to that later during the presentation. And then we'll report back to plenary after the discussion rooms, after which we'll have the closing remarks with some commitments made from the city, but then also from different stakeholders present. And these will directly feed into the Food System Summit. So I'll briefly just take you through what the 2020 African City Food Exchange is. First of all, the aim of this is to elevate the voices of African cities towards the UN Food Systems Dialogue. And just to bring you back a bit on what ICLI is all about. So ICLI is a network organization of over 1,750 local and regional governments committed to sustainable urban development. And we are active in over 100 plus countries worldwide, and with more than 250 project cities in Africa. So we support local governments with sustainability planning and across different thematic areas, climate, energy, and then also areas around food and circularity. So to take you back to the dialogues, first of all, the objectives of the dialogues is to highlight the role that African local governments are playing in improving their food systems, to generate discussions, actions, and commitments from the local governments on food system reforms. So these will be fed into the UN Food System Summit, but then also starting with a pre-summit that will be held in July. And then we want to connect these dialogues with the member states dialogues that are happening in the different countries. And then importantly, we would want to achieve lasting collaboration on urban food systems and strengthen work around urban food the different cities. So just to give you an idea of the roadmap towards the UN Food System Summit. So we are in the phase 1 of engagements that will happen across the cities, and the different cities within which the dialogues will happen are really spread out across the continent, in West Africa, in Eastern Africa, in Southern Africa. And then, so Kilimany is a part of the block of Southern African cities in which we'll be holding the dialogues. And then the phase 2 learning will happen between different cities, and we'll be matching similarities and themes across these different cities. And this will be done across, during the African City Food Month campaign. And also the outputs of this will be fed into the UN Food Systems Pre-Summit in July. And then in September, we know that's when the summit will happen. But then we don't want actions and commitment to stop at the summit, but we want to keep the momentum of activities that are happening around food throughout the year through different platforms. For example, the ICLEI Africa One Health platform, FAO Green Cities Initiative, and Cities with Nature platform. So importantly, we're having these discussions to be able to feed into the UN Food System Summit. And this summit is aligned with 5 action tracks. So action track 1 is first of all to ensure access to safe and nutritious food for all. The action track 2 is to shift to sustainable consumption patterns. Then action track 3 of the summit is to boost nature-based nature positive production. And then action track 4 is to advance equitable livelihoods. And action track 5 is to build resilience to vulnerabilities, shocks, and stresses. So these action tracks are really very overarching, but they encompass a lot of different themes around food. And then during our discussions today, we want to be able to identify different actions, different opportunities with which we can really nicely group under these different action tracks. So before I continue, I would like to request you to please rename yourself according to an action track that you would love to discuss further, or one that you're particularly interested in. For example, if you are Solofina Nekesa and you want to break out and discuss further on action track 1 for safe and nutritious food, please rename yourself. For example, your name, which is Solofina Nekesa, then a dash, and then action track 1, AT1. So the way to do that is when you go into the participants list and you hover over a name, you'll see the more function, and then there's an option to rename yourself. So you can rename yourself with that function, with that button to your name, the dash, and then 81 or 2 or 3, depending on where you'd want to have further discussion on. So I'll come back to this, but before I continue, I would like to welcome our mayor to give the opening remarks for our dialogue. So before we continue, just to give an idea of the different partners that we are working with, the dialogue is first of all supported by FAO with ICLEI and being hosted by the Municipal Council of Kilimany, as well as other supporting partners. So as I've noted before, we'll have different speakers from different organizations, and this will be more to, first of all, to give us more information for different themes, but then to also equip us with the knowledge to be able to have a meaningful discussions in the breakout rooms. So at this juncture, I would like to please invite Mayor Manuel to please officially open the dialogue, and then also share with us some of your thoughts around Kilimany's participation in the dialogues moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Solofina, and other colleagues at ICLEI office in Cape Town. There are mayors who are following this dialogue, colleagues, supporting partners, our special partners from FAO who have been working with us throughout, both at the country office in Maputo, but also in Rome. I would like, first of all, to thank ICLEI and all the partners for this opportunity that was given to Kilimany City to coordinate and host this first independent dialogue. Indeed, Kilimany has been engaged in the food system process by working with different partners, some of them from the university, others from the NGO sector, but also we've been engaging the private sector. Just to start with, I would like to mention that Kilimany City is a coastal city and therefore very much vulnerable to climate change adversities. It is the capital city of Zambezia province. It's actually the political, economic, and administrative capital of the province. And the city is about 350,000 to 400,000 inhabitants. The province itself, I mean, the Zambezia province, to which Kilimany is the capital, has got about 6 million inhabitants. And the council has been working on a series of innovation projects to mitigate the adverse impacts of climate change. And here we would like to mention basically 3 major projects. The first was Kilimany Limpa, the second is Kilimany Agricola, and the third is the Coastal City Adaptation Project. We, as I mentioned before, have been partnering with different stakeholders at local, regional, but also at international level. For example, within the city of Kilimany, we've been working with local communities, with schools where we created environmental youth clubs, but also we have been working with women clubs and with the private sector and the 2 universities that are based here. One is the School of Oceanography from Eduardo Mondlane University, while the other is the Unilikungu, which is its headquarters here in the city of Kilimany. At the international level, we have been working on the Coastal City Adaptation Project. We've been working with Chemonics, which is a US-based company funded by USAID. And in this project, we've been not only training people, but also communities, students, young people, and women on the importance of mangroves. As I mentioned before, Kilimany City is a coastal city built on the banks of Rio dos Bons, Sinai, making it very vulnerable to climate change, but basically to flooding, be it from sea rise, but also from flooding from the rain. But also on this Coastal City Adaptation Project, we trained the local leadership, the youth and women on the importance of mangroves in combating erosion, but also the importance of the mangrove for the biodiversity and the ecosystem. As most of the people in our city, they do get their income from fishing, then the importance of mangroves and of biodiversity for the reproduction of different fish species is of a paramount importance. We also worked with different Italian NGOs, Celine and Manites. I think our colleagues from Manites will join us, but also with the municipalities of Reggio Emilia and Milan, where we have been drilling and treating waste, transforming waste into compost, and then that compost will then distribute it to farmers who will be educated and taught on how to use compost to improve not only the quantity of the products they produce, but also to better the productivity. So by doing that, we managed to influence and actually improve the nutritious status of our farmers and Kilimane inhabitants. At this point, I must point out that actually Zambezia and the Nampula provinces, they have more than 20% of Mozambique's population. And actually, these are the most populous provinces, being Nampula being the first and Zambezia the second. So any change in the nutrition status of these two provinces will then affect the nutrition status of the country as a whole. And also I wanted to add that these are the two provinces, Nampula and Zambezia, have the highest levels of malnutrition. Actually, the last data that we do have, this is at 50 to 52% of malnutrition, both for the children, but also for the population in general. So it was through the exchange of best practices, technical assistance, and capacity building between different actors that the city of Kilimany has drawn up a plan which was tailored specifically to the context to address three major challenges. As I mentioned, the first was the waste management crisis, food security, and mangrove restoration. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome all of you to this first independent food systems dialogue, and we hope to learn from all of you, but also we would like to have your inputs so that we can improve the plans that we've been drawing, but also the actions that we have been taking for the better of the citizens of our city, but also to cooperate with other cities, other NGOs, research institutions, UN agencies, so that we can take these actions further. Today, we had the great pleasure of, for the first time, of attending the Champions Network Framework, which is an institution created by the UN, which bring together those engaged on food systems, those who champion this cause in the preparation of the UN Food Systems Summit. So we attended that under the invitation of the special envoy for this, for the UN special envoy for this summit, and we hope to be able of contributing to the achievement of the objectives of the summit. With these words, I declare open the first Kilimane Independent Food Systems Dialogue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mayor. And you know that the work and enthusiasm for Kilimane in joining different stakeholders to be able to work on local issues is always very inspiring. And I think when you note on those three issues of being able to deal with climate change shocks, building livelihoods, and food security as really some of the key issues that that the municipality is dealing with, and would want to get would like to get build on that in terms of innovation and investment, to be able to work on issues related to waste management, food security, as well as mangrove restoration. So we hope that this dialogue is able to bring up some of the ideas around that, and then how this can be well implemented into some of Kilimany's strategies moving forward. So welcome, and thank you very much, Honorable Mayor. So as I noted earlier, thank you. As I noted earlier, FAO is supporting the independent dialogues in 17 African cities, And we have here today with us the FAO Mozambique representative, Mr. Haranani. Welcome to the dialogue, and your opening remarks really in how these local processes are linked to the larger processes of the summit would be very valuable today. Thank you and welcome.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Naisa. Then I will be speaking in Portuguese for the benefit of the majority of the colleagues that are participating in this event. So I understand that there is English translation facility, so maybe colleagues that are not fluent in Portuguese, maybe you can shift to the translations. You can, so we can engage in a proactive dialogue for this independent dialogue. Excelentíssima dia do município de Kilimany, Dr. Manuel. Foi grande prazer de poder tê-lo cá juntamente conosco e foi grande prazer também de poder ouvir as iniciativas que o município está neste momento a implementar em todo o seu território, que certamente estão a contribuir bastante para os objetivos para o qual todos nós cá estamos neste momento reunidos. Gostaria também de reconhecer aqui a presença dos representantes do Governo e do Conselho Executivo Provincial da Zambésia, que possivelmente também estão a nos acompanhar. Excelentíssimos representantes, so dear representative from the ICLEI itself, we thank you very much for your participation and leadership in organizing these independent dialogues. I understand this is Mozambique is a very important component for the different types of dialogue that are being recommended for country members to implement in order to achieve the objective that we are all after and envisage for this summit. Também gostaria de apresentar aqui os meus reconhecimentos aos representantes e parceiros do desenvolvimento e os colegas das agências, das unidas, os meus colegas da FAO que também estão hoje aqui para contribuir. E com certeza, ilustres senhores e senhoras das organizações não governamentais, da sociedade civil, das instituições de investigação e todos os elementos da nossa sociedade moçambicana que estão hoje conosco para poder partilhar a sua sabedoria e o seu conhecimento nessa área. Gostaria de congratular os representantes do Governo Provincial da Zambésia e da ICLEI e de todos os participantes neste diálogo do município de Kilimany, que se insere na preparação da Cimeira Mundial dos Sistemas Agroalimentares previstos para setembro desse ano. Temos apenas uns meses à nossa frente e vamos ter que acelerar um bocado os nossos passos para podermos apanhar a boleia em setembro. Este diálogo independente, que constitui uma das modalidades dos diálogos para a Cimeira Mundial dos Sistemas Agroalimentares, é uma plataforma que reflete o compromisso de todos e os intervenientes nos sistemas de produção alimentar e na sua cadeia de valores, desde os campos da produção até os lares das famílias nas zonas urbanas, principalmente. A Cimeira Mundial de Sistemas Agroalimentares foi proposta durante a celebração do Dia Mundial de Alimentação, a 16 de outubro de 2019, pelo Secretário-Geral das Nações Unidas, como parte da década de ação para atingir os Objetivos do Desenvolvimento Sustentável, tendo como objetivo a identificação de soluções, incrementar a conscientização e elevar a discussão pública sobre reformas nos nossos sistemas alimentares, desenvolver os princípios para orientar governos e outras partes interessadas numa ação conjunta de aproveitamento das sinergias para acelerar a concretização dos Objetivos do Desenvolvimento Sustentável. Esta cimeira torna-se assim preponderante para responder à realidade do mundo que hoje enfrentamos, especificamente no que concerne à situação da segurança alimentar e nutrição de milhões de habitantes do nosso planeta, não só hoje, mas principalmente para o futuro. Devemos reconhecer que, não obstante aos esforços durante os últimos anos, os dados dos relatórios sobre o estado da segurança alimentar e nutrição e sobre a crise alimentar mundial antevêm um futuro sombrio para muitos dos países, principalmente os países em vias de desenvolvimento. Uma projeção que foi feita no âmbito das análises do estado da segurança alimentar e nutrição em 2020 indica que Se as recentes tendências se mantiverem, teremos em 2030 mais de 840 milhões de pessoas em situações de fome ou subnutrição em todo o mundo. 2030, faltam apenas uns meros 8 anos a partir da data que estamos, portanto, não vai ser muito longe. A situação na África seria de extrema preocupação. Mesmo já em 2019, a percentagem da população subnutrida na África estava na casa dos 19%, o dobro da média global, e poderá vir a atingir os 25,7% caso a corrente trajetória se mantiver em 2030. As causas para o aumento para o aumento da insegurança alimentar, diria, e nutricional, observado nos últimos anos, são múltiplas. Entre elas, podemos destacar a situação do aumento significativo de conflitos armados, dos choques climáticos extremos. Aqui em Moçambique, eu acho que é uma situação que todos nós testemunhamos quase anualmente, da pandemia do Covid, que veio a contribuir negativamente para o progresso que tínhamos conseguido nos anos anteriores, e das desacelerações econômicas que têm comprometido o acesso, principalmente para a população mais vulnerável aos alimentos que precisam no dia a dia. Em Moçambique, principalmente, como que o nosso maior já tem mencionado, os eventos climáticos que temos, como a seca, as cheias, os ciclones, afetaram severamente várias cidades do país, inclusive a cidade de Kilimany. Ainda está muito fresco no nosso mente os últimos recentes acontecimentos em dezembro e muito recentemente também já em 2001. E que contribuiu assim para agudizar ainda mais os riscos de insegurança alimentar no país, para além do conflito armado, que resultou em perdas significantes dos meios de vida e de proliferação de deslocados em várias províncias do norte e centro do país. O resultado do IPC, que é uma classificação integrada das fases de segurança alimentar, realizado em novembro de 2020, muito recentemente, dá conta de que, pelo menos nesse momento, entre os meses de abril e setembro, estima-se que por volta 1,7 milhões dos nossos irmãos e irmãs poderiam estar expostos a um alto nível de insegurança alimentar aguda, ou da fase 3 e para além. Em alguns desses meses, portanto, entre os meses de abril a setembro, poderíamos ter essa situação. Vamos ver depois com os novos assessmentos que vão ser feitos para ver qual de facto foi o número real. Mas esse foi um número de estimativa que foi feito em novembro de 2020. Tudo isto aponta para a necessidade de uma ação concertada, a nível nacional, a nível regional e global, é o que esta cimeira está empenhado em desvendar, pois no mundo globalizado de hoje, como todos sabemos, nenhum país é uma ilha. Estamos todos interligados e interdependentes. Esse foi o espírito dessa cimeira, para podermos, de facto, partilhar as experiências globais, ajustando as soluções às realidades locais em cada país. Excelência, ilustres participantes, o termo sistema alimentar, na verdade, refere-se à constelação de atividades envolvidas na produção, no processamento, no transporte e consumo de alimentos. Os sistemas alimentares tocam todos os aspectos da existência humana. Esta constelação de atividades é igualmente praticada por vários intervenientes, a partir dos produtores, das famílias, das empresas, pequenas, médias e grandes empresas, das instituições de investigação, dos governos, da sociedade civil, dos sistemas de financiamento, das cooperações regionais e globais, entre outros. Por conseguinte, para podermos desvendar as imperfeições ao longo de todo o sistema, precisamos da participação de todos. Esta é a razão de ser e da importância do diálogo em preparação à cimeira. Segundo alguns estudos, na verdade, o alimento produzido globalmente seria suficiente para alimentar a população mundial que nós temos nesse momento. O problema é que há uma assimetria em termos de distribuição e também há grandes perdas e, digamos, desperdícios e perdas durante, ao longo da cadeia da produção até ao consumidor, o que causou pelo menos uma perda na casa dos 30% de tudo aquilo que tínhamos produzido e que deveriam ser aproveitados para o consumo da população. Guiado pelas 5 ações temáticas que chamamos Action 3, como foi aqui já nomeado pelo nosso colega Solofina, procuramos assim sistematizar as nossas sabedorias, perspectivas, experiências e observações para positivamente contribuir para o objetivo desta cimeira, que é a aperfeiçoação dos sistemas alimentares nacionais, regionais e globais para contribuir para o alcance das metas da ODS, dos Objetivos de Desenvolvimento Sustentável em 2030. Muito mais concretamente, a meta número 2, em que fala sobre erradicar a fome, alcançar a segurança alimentar, melhorar a nutrição e promover a agricultura sustentável. Meus votos de trabalho e, como sempre, a FAO está em vossa disposição para contribuir com aquilo que devemos e podemos. Muito obrigado e boa tarde para todos. Yeah, Sophie, back to you. I'm done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harunani, for that strong opening. And I think what you really point out is the issue of inequality in access to food globally. I think where you even note that over 1.5 million people go hungry every day, and it's not necessarily due to lack of food, but due to system inaccuracies that do happen. So, and I think you also mentioned the issues that have to do with building resilience of food system because of the multiple shocks that that food systems are experiencing. So, I think as part of this dialogue, when we are looking at actions and looking at solutions, these are some of the things we should be able to dive into. You know, in relation to the different action tracks, what are the actions? What are the different proposed solutions? And it could be relative to Kilimane or to Mozambique. But what are those things that different actors can do, that the municipality can do, that everyone in their different capacity can do to build resilience of the food system? So thank you very much, Mr. Harunani. So now that we've got the opening of the dialogue and the dialogue is going, we've got also more participants joining us. So I would like to set the scene, to really understand what the concept of Agri-invest is all about, and then to also have a discussion with agro-investment companies, such as Siena Dauda, on what are some of the experiences when it comes to agri-investment, in terms of what are some of the bottlenecks that they experience, but then also what are some of those incentives or mechanisms that could help to make it a more make it a space that incentivizes agro investment. So I would like to please invite Barbara from FAO Southern Africa to give us an understanding of what agro-invest means, and then from there we'll have a chat with a local stakeholder that is working in the space of agro-invest in Kilimany to take us further from there. Welcome to the dialogue, Barbara, and I'm happy to see you again.
No, thank you very much, Solofina. Eu também vou falar português, ou pelo menos tentar falar português. Muito boa tarde a todos. Eu me chamo Bárbara de Oliveira Hlatka e eu sou a oficial de agronegócios da FAO, da África Austral. Eu trabalho junto com o escritório nacional da FAO em Moçambique. E hoje eu vou apresentar uma apresentação muito breve, mas para inspirar-nos a pensar sobre como atrair o investimento do setor privado para a agricultura, para o desenvolvimento da agricultura sustentável e inclusiva, quer dizer para um desenvolvimento da agricultura que pretende também desenvolver as vidas dos diferentes atores na sua cadeia. Então, permita-me de partilhar a ecrã. Então, eu fui pedida de falar um pouco sobre a promoção de investimentos sustentáveis na agricultura, mas também um pouco sobre como se podia, junto com essas ferramentas, melhorar a nutrição, que eu já vejo que está mal escrito, então desculpa por isso, em Kilimany. Então, a primeira pergunta que temos que nos dar é especificamente nos sistemas alimentares, olhando para os sistemas alimentares que existem em Kilimany, quais são as principais barreiras do setor privado no investimento inclusivo e sustentável no setor agrícola? Eu vou falar algumas, não são todas, talvez nós podemos depois pensar sobre quais são as outras barreiras em investimento no setor agrário, mas são alguns princípios que eu aqui queria destacar. Primeiramente, o setor privado não pode investir em cadeias de valor confusas e desorganizadas, que maiormente são informais, por várias razões, incluindo que essas cadeias têm bastante tal chamados transaction costs, custo de transação, que proíbe que os diferentes atores dentro dessas cadeias conseguem fazer suficiente ganhos ou profit nas suas operações. É muito difícil nas cadeias de valor que são desorganizadas conseguir que os diferentes atores ganhem suficiente valor financeiro para reinvestir, mas também para conseguir pagar as suas despesas de casa ou das suas famílias. Nesse caso, os pequenos agricultores que nós conhecemos, que estão a trabalhar ao redor da cidade de Kilimany e, pronto, nas zonas talvez periurbanas ou rurais, perto de Kilimany, que abastecem o mercado local, ainda operam nas cadeias de valor muito desorganizadas, que elas proíbem, que são que conseguem que um investidor privado, incluindo um banco, por exemplo, uma instituição financeira, que também é um investidor privado, né? Consegue, aliás, consegue investir nos negócios que eles estão a desenvolver. Nesse caso, falo de produção, falo de processamento e escovamento e a própria comercialização dos produtos agrícolas. Número 3, eu queria destacar que nos modelos de negócio que os pequenos produtores operam, a escala de produção é demasiado pequena para criar o lucro. Então, eles são muito, como se diz, vivem muito longe um do outro e muito longe das estradas, muito longe do próprio mercado, da própria cidade. Tem terrenos pequenos e isso não é muito bom para atrair investimento. Apesar de existir outros modelos mais propícios para ganhar lucro de pequeno produtor, como, por exemplo, agregação, e existem também experiência disso ao redor de Kilimany, então nós podemos ver como essas podem ser percebidas melhor e como podemos las utilizar como um exemplo. Os agregadores não podem agregar os pequenos proprietários que estão isolados e não têm acesso aos bens e serviços necessários. É simplesmente muito caro e muito arriscado. Também existem algumas experiências dessas alrededores de Kilimany. Nenhum banqueiro também considera empréstimo a pequeno agricultor que não esteja em uma cadeia de valor organizada, com acesso ao mercado de insumos e produtos e menos nível de risco. Então, uma pergunta que temos aqui nos pôr como a cidade, não, como o município, é como vamos mudar isso? Como o governo central, provincial ou municipal, o que deve fazer para facilitar o investimento inclusivo e sustentável nas cadeias de valor? E nós falamos sempre de uma teoria de mudança que nós achamos que é muito pertinente considerando as diferentes approaches que utilizamos em diferentes países africanos na região de SADC para promover investimento privado na agricultura. E o que vimos funcionando é que o setor público tem que, nesse caso pode ser dependendo da ação que tem que ser feita, mas nesse caso nós identificamos o setor público como o próprio município ou a província. O setor público tem que implantar um pacote de medidas, e essa é uma coisa muito importante. Esse pacote de medidas nós chamamos investimentos públicos, ou tal chamados instrumentos de política, e esse pacote de medidas deve permitir que o setor privado realize os investimentos também privados, que são inclusivos e que gerem os objetivos que nós temos, como, por exemplo, um município, gerar empregos, conseguir segurança alimentar, como falou o senhor presidente, substituição das importações, com a substituição do produto local. Existe a importação das verduras, por exemplo, na cidade de Kilimany, nas épocas que não há muita abundância. Aumento das exportações, se possível, e crescimento econômico inclusivo. Então, nesse caso, essa teoria da mudança fala que o setor público está no início dessa mudança. Não existe, ou vai ser muito difícil, que o setor privado consiga, incluindo os pequenos produtores que também são o setor privado, ou nós queremos que eles sejam o setor privado, conseguem gerar renda daquilo que eles fazem. É muito difícil para elas conseguir gerar resultados sem nós implementando investimentos públicos em forma de instrumentos de política. E uma das lições da pandemia da Covid-19 é que a necessidade de construir sistemas de alimentos urbanos, periurbanos, e confiando mais nas cadeias locais é muito importante. Quanto mais os circuitos são curtos, mais evitamos a interrupção dos canais de abastecimento, mas também podemos mais controlar a qualidade e outros aspectos. Nesse caso, é importante o Covid-19 que nos trouxe é o apelo para promover a agricultura tanto periurbana como rural ligada às cadeias de valor locais. E isso só se pode alcançar quando nós começamos a perceber essas cadeias, começamos a perceber como fluem alimentos, como fluem produtos do campo, digamos, para o mercado, e como podemos facilitar como podemos, como se diz, fixar essas cadeias em forma que são que tem mais apetite, que dá mais apetite para o setor privado ou para o setor financeiro investir nelas, porque sem dinheiro vai ser muito difícil de fazer isto. Então, nós entendemos diferentes categorias de medidas políticas, conhecemos até mais ou menos 200, que são medidas regulatórias, econômicas. Algumas delas têm que ser implementadas no nível central, mas existem também muitas que podem ser implementadas no nível muito local, que são, por exemplo, medidas, diferentes instituições que podem ser postos e podem ser desenvolvidos para deriscamento das finanças que fluem na agricultura local. Podem ser os diferentes fundos de deriscamento que são de previdência pública, podem ser os diferentes planos. Planificação é uma coisa extremamente importante localmente, que pode ser fazer localmente, é uma medida de política que pode ser fazer localmente e que pode beneficiar bastante todas as cadeias de valor, inclusivamente os sistemas de alimentos. A lição aqui é que na África subsaariana a necessidade de financiamento de pequeno produtor é 33 bilhões de dólares. Não vai ser, é muito dinheiro, então quer dizer, não é possível nós usamos uma medida política que normalmente é mais comum, que é o subsídio direto ao produtor, maiormente em consumíveis. Então, o que nós estamos aqui a procurar são inovações em forma de políticas públicas, em forma de ferramentas e medidas que temos que pôr em place, como a cidade de Kilimany, nesse caso, para que conseguimos mudar propiciar o environment para investimento nas cadeias de valor locais. E eu falei de uma coisa que penso que é bastante importante, que é uma boa planificação das cadeias locais. Aqui temos um exemplo de Marrocos, em inglês, mas esse exemplo de Marrocos é muito interessante porque é um contrato, digamos, entre o setor público, que é o governo de Marrocos, setor privado de diferentes cadeias, e o crédito marroquês. Nesse caso, o que nos diz que elas conseguiram desenvolver as suas cadeias nacionais, mas nós talvez podemos levar essa experiência para uma experiência local, como nós podíamos assinar contratos com diferentes atores privados e utilizando uma ferramenta de política, por exemplo, um fundo que pode fazer apoiar um desenvolvimento que é agora necessário nas cadeias que existem ao redor da cidade de Kilimany para umas intervenções muito específicas nas cadeias selecionadas. Então, esse é só um exemplo que nós achamos que é muito interessante e pode ser transferido tanto nos sectores nacionais, mas também nas cadeias de valor locais, que são muito mais curtas, mas também precisam de contrato para a coordenação desse investimento. Não é? Nós queremos coordenar o investimento que faz o setor público com o investimento que faz o setor privado para que esse investimento seja comum e pode apoiar um ao outro. Nesse caso, por exemplo, aqui na cadeia de valor de frango, que é nacional, mas pronto, podemos imaginar como utilizar essa ferramenta localmente. O Estado de Marrakech vai pôr mais ou menos 700 milhões, que eu acho que são 1,7 milhões de dólares, para como se diz, alavancar o investimento privado de 370 milhões. Então, essas são as ideias. A outra que nós sempre pensamos que é bastante boa é que hoje em dia é muito difícil que o investimento flua para a agricultura, especialmente a agricultura que inclui pequenos produtores, não é? Por diferentes causas, especialmente o risco para o banco é muito elevado. Então, existem umas ferramentas que, por exemplo, a nossa organização irmã, que se chama UNCDF, que trabalha com finanças, que está a apoiar municípios em criar fundos inovativos de arriscamento, que chama-se de arriscamento e compartilhamento do risco. E nós achamos que a NIRSAL é, de novo, uma ferramenta nacional, mas existem na Nigéria, que é o Nigerian Risk Sharing Fund, mas existem essas ferramentas existem localmente também em diferentes estados, como a Nigéria é uma federação, não é? Então, de novo, nós temos que pensar como vamos utilizar os fundos públicos inteligentes, digamos, para que conseguimos maior impacto no risco, na diminuição do risco que tem setor privado para investir na agricultura, que inclui pequenos produtores. Eu só queria aqui, então, concluir que para nós a mensagem maior é que para promover o investimento privado no setor agrícola, nós temos que começar com boas políticas, tanto nacionais, mas como locais, utilizando diferentes instrumentos de política inteligente que incentivam comportamento e facilitam acesso a crédito e serviços. Segundo ponto que eu queria destacar é o Plano de Desenvolvimento Territorial, Planejamento Espacial, que coordena investimento público e privado, identifica objetivos comuns e metas, estima custos baseados nas capacidades existentes e tenta procurar uma coordenação e que tipo mais apoio para que o risco de investimento para as cadeias de valor seja mais, como se diz, fixed. Esse plano de desenvolvimento territorial muito bem pode ser utilizado mais tarde para um plano de desenvolvimento nacional, porque a ideia é que todo investimento público está bem coordenado para que serva o propósito de mesmo apoiar o setor privado que investe em forma inclusiva para levantar, digamos, de pobreza o pequeno produtor que agora está a lutar nas cadeias de valor que são muito desorganizadas. Também é importante ver desde o momento de infraestrutura de produção, especialmente os mercados na cidade para facilitar a comercialização, que muitas vezes é muito importante que existem infraestruturas propícias para que a comercialização seja efetiva. E nisto falando é importante fortalecer as diferentes instituições tanto locais, do setor privado local, mas também diferentes agências de promoção de investimento locais na agricultura, e inclusivamente, por exemplo, diferentes agências que apoiam o riscamento, compartilhamento do risco, finanças mistas, em forma, por exemplo, de um fundo específico que possa alavancar o investimento do setor privado. Eu tinha que mais falar sobre a nutrição, um pouco de nutrição, porque o fim que nós queremos conseguir com o investimento privado na agricultura, nas cadeias de valor e nos sistemas alimentares. O fim não é só um rendimento, mas muito mais a nutrição. O senhor presidente, tanto como o nosso representante da FAO, falaram muito bem do estado de desnutrição e de insegurança alimentar em Moçambique, e isso não desinclui a província de Zambésia e próprio Kilimany. Eu aqui fecho uma foto dos resultados que foram publicados no online sobre do IPC, onde pelo menos 34.000 pessoas em Kilimany estão na fase 3, que é de insegurança alimentar, que é uma fase onde não tem suficiente comida, ou a comida que tem, ou tem que comprometer os seus bens para conseguir alimentos. Aqui só queria ver que as análises feitas digam que muitas das vezes a insegurança alimentar é ligada à produção, não é? Produção dos alimentos. Quando há seca, por exemplo, isso é muito diferente, e a fase 3 é muito maior. E só para dizer que a FAO está também a trabalhar em Moçambique, mas em outros países da África Austral, sobre diretrizes dietéticas baseadas em alimentos, que é uma ferramenta também que define que dieta saudável significa para um país ou para uma região, e facilita mensagens e orientação sobre nutrição harmonizada. Nesse caso,
1 minute to wrap up, Barbara.
Já estou terminando, eu sei que já estou falando muito tempo. Então, esse é um trabalho que a FAO está a fazer, que ajuda muito bem de melhorar um pouco a nutrição com a comida local, não? Que faz aquelas pirâmides que nós conhecemos da Europa ou dos Estados Unidos, que dão uma ideia sobre o que é uma dieta sustentável, local e nutritiva, são feitas para o próprio país ou região. E nesse caso, isso facilita muito as pessoas conseguir perceber como de seus próprios alimentos que existem no país, das verduras que existem nas frutas, a alimentação que é mais propícia para aquele próprio país ou para aquela própria zona, como elas podem melhorar a sua nutrição, especialmente para as crianças, quais são os produtos que têm mais ferro ou vitamina A, que normalmente as crianças sofrem desnutrição, e como isso pode ser comunicado para a população, para que eles sabem qual para qual produtos têm mais nutrição do que outros. E isso é tudo. Muito obrigada.
Thank you so much for a very insightful presentation, and really it just takes me back to that one slide where you have those 5 key points, and to me why they are very valuable is because they're very cross-cutting, across the food value chain, where you speak about what are those political measures that can really drive the development of local food system. And I think when you talk about regulatory instruments, economic related incentives, infrastructure development, capacity development, and as well as building institutions, I think that is really well wrapped up. And I would like us to keep this in mind as we go into the discussions, looking at the entire value chain and how we can build investment and innovation, as well as identify opportunities across the 5 action tracks that were identified. So thank you very much, Barbara. So
thank you, Celeste.
So would like to hear some reflections from Sienna Dowd. Benjamin Bene will introduce himself, and then also reflect on as a local business in Kilimany. What is the experience of doing business in Kilimany? What opportunities do you see? And then what are those incentives, or what are those political measures that would make doing business in Kilimany better? Welcome.
Thank you, Salofina. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So if you allow, we will just introduce our social enterprise. And we have a small presentation about us and the challenges what we are facing as an entrepreneur. So my presentation will be in Portuguese and English, okay? Eu represento a Invest Agro em 2015 e 100% constituída por fundada por 3 mulheres e estamos neste momento somos uma pequena empresa social com apenas 5 funcionários, 5 colaboradores a tempo inteiro. A nossa empresa, nossa organização tem como foco apoiar as comunidades rurais dos.
Okay, you're breaking up. We can't hear you. No, you're breaking up and we can't hear you.
No sentido de apoiá-los no desenvolvimento.
I'm sorry, Sienna, we can't
das
hear
suas atividades.
All right, we've lost our presenter. Maybe Benjamin, is it possible to talk us through the presentation, or should we wait for Sienna?
Let's give 30 seconds at least.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
I'm sorry, my internet is too down. So if I can't, I think Benjamin can help me on this. So
we can hear you. Is it possible to speak through your presentation without necessarily presenting? Then at least we can pick up what you're saying.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, you're breaking up again. So
a nossa visão é tornar-se uma organização que visa. May I continue?
Please go ahead.
Thanks. Portanto, nossa visão é garantir este reconhecimento internacional que visa desenvolver estratégias ligadas a tecnologias no âmbito de energias renováveis, pesquisa na questão da segurança alimentar, na questão da água, em termos de provisão e sustentabilidade no âmbito de ambientes de negócios, tudo ligado à agricultura e cadeia de valores. Estamos, neste momento, a trabalhar para a nossa missão, que é implementar estratégias integradas de desenvolvimento, monitoria e suporte das famílias agrícolas rurais na geração de riqueza dos produtos no âmbito do alcance dos seus objetivos e geração de receita. E fazemos isso em termos de monitoria e ligação com os mercados. Estes são os valores que nós nos propusemos para os próximos, durante a nossa implementação, que tem a ver com a competência, inovação, transparência, dedicação, lealdade e motivação. I'm sorry. Como metas, como objetivos, nós desenvolvemos a nossa missão e a nossa estratégia de atuação, que é integrar as famílias rurais agrícolas em termos da sustentabilidade da agrícola e cadeias de valor, dar o suporte local nas comunidades e garantir que a agricultura ou o produto por eles desenvolvidos seja competitivo e maximizando também a existência de recursos e para obter a receita e obter também melhor qualidade em todo o processo da cadeia de valor. E o terceiro objetivo é implementar estratégias integradas de desenvolvimento na agricultura rural destas comunidades onde a Invest está inserida. Digo isto nas províncias de Zambésia, Nampula e Niassa, basicamente. E iniciamos este ano a trabalhar também com algumas comunidades na província de Tete. Para a implementação da nossa estratégia como empresa social, como organização social, nós nos propusemos em trabalhar em 5 áreas distintas que estão mesmo ligadas à agricultura e segurança alimentar. A primeira é a agricultura e segurança alimentar, porque acreditamos que ninguém consegue nem sequer ir à escola se não garante a alimentação se não é bem nutrido. A segunda é a água, porque para garantirmos uma agricultura de qualidade, nós precisamos de água para desenvolver a agricultura e garantir esta questão da segurança alimentar. Desenvolvemos também atividades ligadas ao meio ambiente, que é mesmo a preservação do meio ambiente e reflorestação das áreas e para evitar também o desmatamento dos espaços. Nas áreas de energia, temos estado a desenvolver estratégias usando energias renováveis. Neste momento, temos um projeto em curso, estamos a trabalhar e vamos apresentar já a seguir. E na área de negócios, nós, no âmbito de estimular a economia das famílias que estão ligadas à nossa rede, criamos a incubadora de empresas de base agrícola aqui em Kilimany no ano de 2019. Estas são imagens de algumas das atividades que nós temos estado a desenvolver. Esta é basicamente ligada ao primeiro pilar da Invest, que é Agri-food Security. Ao longo destes anos, este ano nós conseguimos colocar no mercado internacional pela primeira vez o feijão catarino da comunidade de Tete. E para nós foi uma experiência muito, muito importante, porque vimos que, mesmo estando a trabalhar sozinhos, nós conseguimos alcançar o mercado internacional, obedecendo alguns padrões de qualidade exigidos internacionalmente. Em termos dos outros produtos que nós fazemos, na Zambésia nós temos cerca de 10 associações a trabalharem conosco e na província de Nampula temos cerca de 200 famílias a trabalharem também com a nossa organização e apoiamos eles a colocar os produtos nos mercados. Estes são dois projetos interessantes que iniciaram no ano passado, mesmo por
2 minutes to wrap up.
Causa
No, Sienna, we are losing you in the presentation.
A questão da pandemia da Covid-2000.
Hello, we are losing you in the presentation, Sienna. Is it possible to summarize? Hello, Sienna, we are losing you in the presentation. Is it possible to summarize in 1 minute? Okay, we've lost our presenter, but I hope we can catch up on some of the inputs during the discussions and the breakout sessions.
Maybe I should appoint some challenges that I believe Sienna would say after what she's saying.
Absolutely.
What we saw as challenges since we are working in a private sector. one of our targets is reduce urban hunger and food insecurity. Second, reduce urban unemployment and gender inequality. And third, try to align with local authorities and potential stakeholders to aim the SDGs. Basically, these are the three main. I'm not talk more because we don't have time now. But these three are the main challenges that we identify as barriers to get where we should be in a midterm. After that, summarizing, for the consolidation of these projects presented by Siana, we consider that we need to have more engagement to get, well, maybe it's not the term more engagement, but to get aligned engagement between private sector, NGOs, and other stakeholders and local authorities. Because if each of us continue to work separately, it will be difficult to get the results that we aim. Basically, is that.
Thank you very much, Benjamin, for that very neat summary. And I think you really bring out the essence of what food system is all about, is to really break the silos in which different stakeholders work, but to really look at food in a very integrated way. Because when you look at the issues you bring about, like food insecurity, employment, trying to achieve the SDGs, if all of these are tackled in a very integrated manner, then as an entrepreneur or as an investor, you do not have to shoulder the whole burden, but this is shared between different stakeholders, the NGOs, the local government, as well as other food systems investors.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah. So I would like to share with you, before we continue to our breakout rooms, I just want to bring you back to the slide where we were talking about the action tracks and how we want to link this with today's discussion. So as you can see, some of you have already renamed yourself either 81 because you would want to continue this discussion under action track 1, or 82 because you want to talk about sustainable consumption, or 83, so on and so forth. So if you've not yet renamed yourself, depending on what is your area of interest for the discussion to continue, please do rename yourself. And the way you can do that is going under participants, hovering over your name, you go to more, then you rename yourself to an action track that you are interested in joining for the discussion. And so we'll be talking about, in these discussion groups, first of all, 3 key questions that are very much related, and these will be discussed under the themes that are identified. And some of these have been touched upon by earlier stakeholders that are presenting, but at a very high level. You know, what are the opportunities for investment and innovation in Kilimany's urban food systems? And this will be looked at under these different themes. You know, is it in terms of access to safe and nutritious food? Where do the opportunities lie here? In terms of sustainable consumption patterns, where do the opportunities lie here? And so on and so forth. And then, following through to the next presentation that hinted on some of these, what policy mechanisms, what infrastructure that can be adopted or introduced to drive systemic innovation and change in Kilimany's food system. And this can be really very specific in terms of, let's say, infrastructure. Is infrastructure needed for markets? Is infrastructure needed for example, cooling systems in the markets? Is it infrastructure related to, for example, roads connecting production centers to consuming centers? So this sort of conversation. And then we bring it back to ourselves. how can your work contribute towards advancing the themes in Kilimany. So we shall, under the different action tracks that you have identified, and so these will be discussed. So the facilitators have access to a central Google document in which the different inputs will be put. But please feel free, be bold as we bring out some of these different issues, and know that your municipality is listening and different actors are listening, and this is a platform for sharing and also getting to know how we can build a better, more resilient and nutritious food system. So thank you very much. You'll be automatically redirected in 2 breakout rooms. The discussions will last for 30 minutes, and then we'll report back to plenary. So in each discussion room, I'd like to request the facilitator to appoint someone who will be noting down on the Google form to note down the key points, and then you can choose anyone from the group to report back to plenary. So Paul, please break out the room unless when you have something else to add.
Cool. Welcome back from the breakout sessions. You can see we're still streaming in from the different rooms. So, so what this session is going to really be about is reporting back on some of the discussions that have been had in the breakout rooms. So I think without wasting so much time, I'd like to hand over to Action Track 1 discussion group, and then what were some of the key outcomes. In 5 minutes, please, let's discuss this or highlight the key outcomes from your discussion. And then at the end of it all, we'll be able to link this back to some of the priorities identified by the city, and then eventually lead it back to the Independent Summit. So Action Track 1, facilitator, or if you've chosen someone to report back, please go ahead.
Is there anyone from Action Track 1 who'd like to report back?
Sorry. Hello.
Hi, Sakur.
Yes. I'm not in the Action Track 1, but I would like to know because when they created the group, I couldn't access the form. So I just want to know, for creation of resilience during this vulnerability, which action track is that? It's 5, right? Oh, okay. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you.
Action track 5. Thanks.
Okay.
All right, let's take this 5 minutes, and then so that we can hear from everyone in this short space of time remaining.
Okay, so I'll reflect briefly on the discussion for Action Track 1, which was about access to safe and nutritious food. I think we, as with most of these, the inroad is what isn't quite happening yet, and then trying to think, well, how do we make that happen? So we had a lot of inputs about there being very high quality food, particularly the rice, chicken dish, and then looking at corn, soy, cotton, and cattle as crops that can be really improved in terms of their yield. And the main challenge that Kilimany faces is that it's removed from some of the larger markets. So even though it has these quality foods, they're not necessarily able to feed these foods into markets in Mozambique, and also not into global export markets. And one of the propositions there is trying to make sure that there can be an effective national certification for organic food or for food quality that can support produce that comes from Zambiziana to get exported. And that's, I think in our conversation, we had a tension between talking about Mozambican food system versus what can happen in Kilimany specifically. There are issues of food safety, as the food often takes too long to reach the customer from farmers into marketplace. And then a need to support farmers, both with financing, with technical knowledge, and here are some propositions around developing agricultural assemblies that can link local producers and government, that can roll out trainings, but can also establish spaces that can support the farmers to address their needs and support them to grow their businesses, either with financing or technical assistance. And then some remarks about improving the infrastructure at market to improve the attractiveness of different markets. And Sienna remarked about some projects going on to have online and physical markets, as well as helping to distribute food more widely beyond Kilimany. So quite a few hooks in there, and I think the closing remark which Barbara was making is that this gives us some things to discuss further with the municipality, but we need to decide what are the specific priorities that the municipality wants to take on. And so maybe as a closer to this conversation, if people want to reflect on specific visions for Kilimany's food system or specific actions that the municipality should take, that could be valuable. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Paul. So I'd like to hand over to Action Track 2. And Action Track 2 was one for sustainable consumption patterns. So either facilitator or a chosen person report back to plenary. Please switch on your camera and let us know what were some of the highlights from the discussion.
I think Action Track 2, there were too few people, so we merged it with Daniel's with 3.
Okay. All right, so then Action Track 3, Daniel.
Thank you very much, Solo. And essentially, we focused on nature-based solutions to improve Kilimany's food system. I think that's Action Track 3. And in terms of opportunities for investment and innovation in that system, in the food system, my group, we talked about beekeeping production, that it can contribute to nature positive production. Essentially, and there was the allusion that initially it used to be done in a way that it destroys forest and all of that. But now, because of through the introduction of new technologies, this has reduced. And we also mentioned non-timber product in terms of opportunity for investment, non-timber products in our lands, and also mushroom farming. This, they said, can be introduced. And the problem that has is preservation in terms of when you harvest them, how do you preserve them, which I think they said there must be investment in that also. And also in terms of fisheries, our group alluded to investment in fisheries, in fish ponds in order to improve nutrition. In terms of policies, our group also made mention of what is currently going on in, I think, Maputo, that there are e-vouchers that are being given to support farmers and some businesses, that this can be introduced for smaller businesses and for small farmers so that they can use this to access loans. And also in terms of diversification of rural economy, such that they don't depend on one product or crop all through the year, that this needs to happen in terms of policies to focus on for Kilimany. Also, there is the mention of policy education on nutrition, but change of behavior basically relies on education. And so there must be policies in place in the city of Kilimany to inform people and to educate people about right dietary choices. And also, I think we mentioned that there is need for policies to support smallholders so that they can move towards commercialization. And yeah, we made mention of an NGO that was doing something before in Zambia, where they support farmers through contract farming. And so they provide finances for them. And so when these farmers harvest their product, they supply back to the NGO and some other people. But then this is not happening anymore. And so such kind of mechanisms should be brought back. That was what we spoke about in my group. And what we also made mention of that came across very strongly is the need for policies and mechanisms that promote synergy between stakeholders. And that is the fact that we agree that they don't, stakeholders in Kilimany and essentially even in Mozambique, they don't really, food system stakeholders, that is, they don't really speak to each other. So they work in silos. And so there is need to improve synergy amongst the stakeholders so that smallholders can be more active in this process and can ensure that they move towards commercialization. Yeah, one of the actors in my group said the organization he represents is already doing this and they have mechanisms in place to bring stakeholders together, but this needs to be improved and stakeholders must speak to each other very well, and that's why this dialogue is actually commendable. That's what we discussed in my group. Over to you, Solo.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for that. So I'd like to now pass on to action track 4 and 5. I've been informed that these were merged. So Sakur, that would be presenting, or there's someone else from your group?
Hello?
Hello, Sakur.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Well, my part is the action track number 5. And we were discussing the creation of resilience during this period of extreme climate issues and so on. And then mainly, how can we create the resilience to face these vulnerable issues that the world is facing now? And first of all, we say that from production, from when we are producing our culture, from production to delivery of the consumers, we're actually creating ways to minimize waste of products, because the waste of our crops, for instance, or everything produced in the farm, it starts being lost from the farm until the consumers. So it's better actually to create ways to minimize this waste. Secondly, one of our members talks about fishing. He said that we need to incentivize fishing practices in our society because it's a part that's actually very, very neglected. And one of the members actually discussed the infrastructure and transport as well. It's a very, very important part as well. He said that in the infrastructure part, there should be planning of the urban area. For example, the market, the market, for instance, it needs to be planned way before so that many adversities can be minimized. And along the resilience as well, we actually discussed some potentials in Kilimany city. For instance, mechanizing production and emphasizing mechanisms of irrigation, because Kilimany, for instance, is actually has been recognized nationally as a province with large production of rice, and the production of rice actually depends a lot in the water availability. But there's no raining season. The main problem is like there's no raining season anymore. In Kilimany, it just rains. So the government or the municipality could create ways of mechanizing production and creating irrigation system to spur development and to spur development in a sustainable way. In short, that's actually everything that we discussed. Thank you very much. I'll hand over the word to Solofina. Sis Solofina.
Thank you very much, Sakur. So I think at this juncture, I just want to invite anyone that does have something to add on to these key points that have been raised, or if you have a question that you'd like to direct to someone on the plenary, please just go ahead and raise your hand or unmute and switch on your camera so that you can bring this forward, or make use of the chat function as well. Yes, Agostinho? Agostinho, your hand is raised.
Okay, yeah. I think these contributions we've been having from colleagues have been really helpful. And when we look at resilience in terms of food, like what Sakur was presenting, I think we have to look at the whole food chain process. And one of our colleagues presented an issue which is also before and after. That is, when we are talking about how our seeds are conserved, how the production is kept after being taken from the fields. These are important points, because when you talk of resilience, it's not just a matter of having enough food, but of how to keep this food for future use and for periods which we don't have enough food. Kilimany as the capital, normally we experience in the hot months scarcity of green vegetables. This is due to, it's more like a culture. People, they do rice in one period. When the rice comes out, they put sweet potatoes. When sweet potatoes come out, they're putting back rice. So it's more like a cycle. And like what Sakur had presented, you see, we have problem of now the change in the rain seasons. In the past, we used to say that the rain season here in Kilimany is from late November to about mid-March, April. But now it starts almost at the beginning of January or the end of January. And we are now being associated with a lot of floods and tropical cyclones. So it's no longer that simple to determine that we are now in the rain period, and people, unfortunately, they haven't got that in their heads. So they invest a lot in the seeds and they lose them because the rain came late. And then when they've put their plants and everything is in the field, there's too much rain and everything also is destroyed. So I think when you're talking about resilience in terms of food production, I think we need to sit down and make a re-evaluation of what we have to do now as the municipality or as people who are interested in the well-being of our people. So I think the ideas which have been shared by most of the people here, we are taking note of them, and we are going to learn a lot, and that would be great for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Agostinho. Are there any additional comments or questions? Okay, I'll give it maybe 30 seconds. Please make use of the chat function as well, if you have any additional questions or comments. All right. So I think I just want to bring all these together before I can hand over to the municipality to really close this off, and I think Agostinho, you really started to hint on some of the issues and where the municipality's vision is with regard to the food system. So I think some of the things that kept coming through the discussion is the issue that in terms of opportunities for investment and innovation, there's huge potential, especially for high quality and nutritious food production within Kilimany. And this is regard to the unique rice that is being produced locally, fish, the potential of the fishing industry to develop and supply larger markets within Mozambique, and then as well as potential from corn, soy, as well as other crops that Kilimany could focus on. And then also what strongly came through is the issue of also other activities such as apiary, that is beekeeping, and then development of non-timber products, the use of non-timber products, and then also mushroom farming. So it has been identified that there is quite a lot of potential locally within Kilimany to be able to produce its food. And then also there is potential to be able to supply to local markets within Mozambique, but then also regional markets. And then also there's an opportunity for smaller businesses to be more involved in the urban food system. And these are small-scale farmers, small-scale traders, as well as small-scale retailers and transporters of food. So there's an opportunity to develop this, as most of them make up the majority of actors across the food supply chain. So how can the municipality better support growth across these two areas of potential? First of all, there was something brought up around farmers' assemblies, which can be supporting groups for collective resources for farmers, as well as infrastructure development. And this can be at market level, but then also transportation level, certification requirements, so that farmers are able to certify their products, or as well as other actors across the value chain can certify their products locally. And then financial incentives, especially towards smaller businesses and smaller traders. And I think importantly, what strongly came out was the issue of building synergies across the different stakeholders. And this can be either through food working groups or through other platforms that can bring different stakeholders working across the food systems together. So really, in a snapshot, those are some of the key things that I picked out. And I think at this juncture, some of the questions that did come through that would want to now direct to the municipality is, what are given all these inputs that we've gotten in this discussion, and then also prior work that has been done around the food system, what are the specific visions for Kilimany, and then also what are the priorities? And we did have a note from Barbara, who is with FAO, that this is that there's opportunity, and also I believe you can expound on this. There's opportunity to support, as well as take some of this priority further. So to support the municipality in really coming down to understanding what its food system priorities are, and then also crafting a vision. So I'll leave that to Barbara to expound on, but really just to, at this juncture, take it back to the municipality, maybe Honorable Mayor or Agostinho, to look at all these different inputs that have been put forward, and then move them forward in terms of commitments, in terms of visions, in terms of the city's priorities with regard to food.
Hello, Stella.
Yes, Honorable Mayor.
Oh, yes, thank you very much. Really, I think this was a very useful conversation. We not only recognize that most of the issues that have been raised here are really pointing to the opportunities that are there on both sides, on the demand side, but also on the supply side. So here, what is needed really is to identify also the opportunity. There is also opportunity for building capacity. So we really wanted to see how institutions like FAO and ICLEI could bring that expertise that is needed to help us at the municipality to reinforce our capacity to support those issues that were pointed up here as farmers' assemblies, the issue of infrastructure, the issue of infrastructure development, the issue of certification, and so on. Actually, we are at a very good point in the sense that we are working on our municipal development structure. It's called Plano de Estrutura da Cidade, a kind of a master plan we are developing now, we are discussing. And the last time when we speak with our colleagues from FAO Rome, they showed an interest in working with us on in developing this master plan for the city. So we wanted also to liaise with FAO Maputo to see how can they assist us on this master plan, because the master plan will be able of allowing us to determine and position ourselves, but also put agriculture and food system at the center of all planning and the policy making process. So we want to really like to streamline, to bring food systems to the core of policy making. I think it was Barbara who also mentioned the issue of territorial and spatial planning. Last week we had a meeting with the MPs who came here to the city to consult with different stakeholders, including the municipality, because Mozambique now is in the process of developing a territorial and spatial development plan. So I think that it's a good opportunity for us to make inputs and inroads into there. But I wanted also to point out the issue that Barbara raised about the barriers. I think because those are like the blocking issues that do not allow further development and consolidation of the opportunity that do exist. And when she mentioned that the issue of disorganization and informality in the value chain, it's really a challenge because, as she said, it increases the transaction costs. So the issue is, I think probably here we will need a more formal either study or a kind of a coaching process by experts who could really come here and work with us to identify that disorganization and try to formulate not only a policy, but also a strategy to move from a value chain disorganized and informal setup into a more organized and formal. The issue also, like from the example that we gave here, working with the Reggio Emilia municipality, Milan, Selim, Manites, and so on. I mean, we are working with this compost, and we are training, for example, farmers, teaching them new techniques to improve their productivity and their production. We are also training them on how to diminish the amount of food that is wasted during transportation from the fields to the markets. We are also with Manites, we are working at the market level to teach how to sell the products while minimizing, how to introduce better conservation practice. But this is like at a very small level. So what Our challenge here is how best to scale up from that experience. We have started, yes, we are moving, yes, but due to the resources and the weak capacity that we do have, I think we need to liaise with others to help us to scale up from this. Even the compost center, we have the compost center is there, but it's only one. We can all attend a certain limited number of farmers, so we need to scale it up. We need to take it to other parts of the municipality. I think I will, for the time being, I will stop here and let my other colleagues to add on. But I think that this was really a very interesting discussion. We managed to learn a lot from what they've been saying, and so thank you very, very, very much. So.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mayor, for that. And you really, I think you touched on very two important points as a starting place for this. You're looking at the municipal development structure, as well as, the municipal development master plan, as well as the territorial and spatial planning as those overarching structures that you within which you want to comprehensively plan for and develop the food system of Kilimane. So there's also a comment from Mr. Harnani in the chat, where he says additionally policies that can provide farmers with collateral that could be used for accessing finance at commercial banks, policies on rationalizing commercial bank interest rates applicable to agriculture, and then incentives for production and exports through fiscal policies and policies to rationalize imports. Maybe do you care to add on to that, Mr. Harnani?
Thank you. No, I think thank you very much, and I think I'm very delighted by the intervention that Maya was made about we are doing, but we need to move further, and to move further, we need all the helps that Anna said. I think they are Maya. I think this is the reason why we are here. In FAO, I think from one thing you can count on us is about the technical expertise that you may need in order to move the initiatives that you have in the ground. But Solofin, I think this is just because when during the discussion, I'm so sorry that I have to cut off for half an hour because of another urgent call, so I couldn't contribute to the final discussion in our group. But this is basically, I think, one thing that came from the last year discussion with the entrepreneurs in Mozambique about what kind of challenge they are facing in making the Mozambican product more affordable, available and reliable on the shelves of the supermarket in the country. So from the discussion, I know that there are few issues that they are facing. And I think this is apart from what that you have already been summarized so well in the plenary. I think these are the additional things that potentially could be considered whether at the central level and also potentially at the provincial level through different mechanisms that will provide some room of breath for these small farmers. I think one of our colleagues mentioned earlier is that one of the problems of small farmers facing because they don't have facility for commercialize the product. So they become left outside of the chain of the agricultural value chain. I think all of these kind of things in many situations have to see of their capacity to access the necessary resources in order to invest on what is necessary. So I think, Mr. Excellency, Mr. Mayor, I think these are some ideas that we just put in place, but I think the government has a better insight of what's going on, and I think that many of these policies are being applied even by the very developed countries. So how can the agriculture become so competitive when the labor when the cost of the labor costs are so high in other countries? I think there are so many different issues that many different approaches that could be introduced in order to make our national product, Mozambique product, more affordable, more sustainable, and of course make it more readily available for all the Mozambicans. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Hernani. Solo, if you allow me, I wanted to just, while Honorable Hernani was speaking, an idea came up. Probably in the next meetings, we would ask the FAO to help us reach out to other UN agencies like the ILO. I think they may have some project, they may have some expertise that also could be added in, like probably UN women, and I mean, so that we could bring all that expertise available to where it's most needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Major. With a great pleasure, we will do that. I think I will be getting in touch with all the colleagues. We have 21 UN agencies here in Mozambique, and each of them with different competitive advantage, skill, and knowledge. We will make it available to you, Mr. Major. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Hernani.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mayor and Mr. Hernani. I think, to me, that is one of the aims of this dialogue, to be able to make the linkages between where the resources are and then where the resources could be used. So to me, that is quite a strong outcome and a strong Mr. Makamo, please unmute.
Em primeiro lugar, muito obrigado. Talvez não devesse falar depois do meu chefe. Mas,
estás à vontade, é democracia.
Mas para dizer o seguinte, primeiro, que sobre este pedido do nosso ilustre Meia, Dr. Araújo, de fato, a minha experiência aqui nas Nações Unidas, na FAO, desde os anos 2000, é que nós somos parceiros do governo. Trabalhamos de mãos dadas com o governo. Nós, a FAO e as outras agências do sistema das Nações Unidas irmãs. Mas é acréscimo, complementando aquilo que é o vosso programa. Vós é que estás no driving à frente do comboio. Nós ajudamos-los, apoiamos-lhes, trocando experiências, talvez trazendo algumas práticas inovativas e boas práticas que existem em outras latitudes no mundo, mas quem está à frente no comando sois vós. Esta é a primeira consideração. A segunda é que realmente eu gostaria de ver que se reunissem com alguma regularidade este embrião, esta rede sobre os sistemas alimentares em Kilimany. Por que eu digo isto? Porque Kilimany tem dinâmicas próprias que só vós conheceis, só vós podeis melhor gerir, controlar e tirar o máximo proveito. Por exemplo, o Chimoio. Eu vi que vai montar uma linha aérea para o transporte de produtos para o mercado regional e internacional. E já teve, Chimoio, uma linha para o transporte de flores para a Holanda, para Amsterdão. Voo direto todas as noites, que saía de Chimoio, via Johannesburgo. Kilimany tem que encontrar aquelas particularidades que só vós conheceis, dada a situação muito específica de Kilimany, e fazer disso uma vantagem comparativa, adicional. Claro, há alguns nichos, como por exemplo foi mencionado mushrooms, não é? São aspectos que devem melhor explorar esses nichos do mercado. E há outros que exigem uma cadeia, uma agregação maior. E outro dia dizia, quando estávamos na reunião de preparação, que tem a vantagem de ter universidades que podem adicionar mais valor na formação técnico-profissional, no diálogo, onde também a FAO pode ajudar no que pode. Obrigado mais uma vez por esta boa ocasião. Bem-ajam, muitos sucessos.
Muito obrigado.
Thank you, Mr. Makamo. Sakur, you have your hand up.
Yes, I would like to, before the meeting finishes, I would like to be grateful for everyone that participated. I would like to be grateful for the invitation. I'm really, really happy to invite the youngsters because enhances growth and participation and exactly empower people, empower the kids or the youngsters to participate in challenging topics.
Thank you very much, Sakur. And I think if I got your message well, you're trying to say thank you for inviting the youngsters. I think first we want to say thank you for being a part of this, because when we are planning for food, we are planning for the future. So thank you for being a part of this discussion. And we hope that we can have more discussions around food, how we can plan better for food, but then also how we can action, how we can implement for improvement of food systems. As we are beginning the decade of action, really all our discussions from now on have to be focusing on what actions can we do as individuals, what actions can we do as a municipality, and what action can we do as the national government to drive or to grow food systems in the way that we envision them to be nutritious, to be resilient, and to be sustainable. Maybe if there are any closing remarks from the mayor, I think this is a moment I take it back to you before we can officially close.
Thank you very much, Solo. Honorable Hernani and all participants, colleagues, I really wanted to thank you all for having found time to be with us today to brainstorm and bring up not only our personally but also institutional experiences. Different issues have been raised. Of course, from the technical paper that was presented, most or some of the measures that were pointed out probably from an international point of view. So, for example, issues like import substitution, the issue of increase of export and so on. So, which means that we cannot move alone as local government. We as local government, we need the participation of the provincial entities, but also there are some issues that which were mentioned here, like the fiscal policies, the fiscal incentives, the issues are the whole issue about funding, the banking sector, which will require other kinds of synergies, and the involvement of national and international entities and organizations. So we are ready, we want to do, and we are able of doing what it's required, but we are humble enough to recognize that alone we cannot go further. Therefore, we need your contribution. And as Dr. Makamo was saying here, that we are on the driving seat. Yes, we recognize that, but we are humble enough to recognize that though we are on the driving seat, but we don't have, most of the time, we don't have the busula, we don't have the know-how. So we need those who are working, for example, for FAO, for ILO, and other specialized institutions, because you have a niche there, you have the expertise, you have the networking facilities, but also, as Mr. Hernani said, in Mozambique, we have 21 or 25 UN institutions. If they are all mobilized and to understand our language, understand our challenges, and understand the issues that we do face, probably we could move. I also understood that UN agencies work with, most of the time, work with the central government. But of course, central government represents the whole, acts on behalf of the whole country. So local government also, I think we should find a room and a space where an interaction between this national, this international institution could, and let's discover together the role that these institutions can play in furthering the agenda. Because if we want to achieve SDGs, we need to realize that FDGs don't happen in a vacuum. They do happen, they are materialized at a space. And that space, most of the time, is run by local entities, by local authorities. So it's very important to take on board local authorities if we want to achieve on time all the SDGs. So we are together, but of course, though we are on the driving seat, but we need the Busula, we need your know-how, we need your expertise, and we need your network. So we hope that you will be able of untangling that and be able of coming. So just to finish, I wanted to invite Mr. Hernani and his team to find time to come and visit us in Kilimany, because I think that, you know, if they come here, they will understand more what we are trying to achieve, what we are trying to do. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for such a strong closing. And we at ICLI, we're always committed to work with you on this journey. To first of all, defining what are the priorities for your food system, putting you in touch with the right stakeholders or the right partners to be able to work with on this journey, and then as well as identify opportunities for capacity building and other requirements. Thank you very much for that, and for also hosting us during this dialogue, and for sharing with us your inputs as a city, and then for letting the different stakeholders be able to give feedback to you. I think to us this has been a very productive dialogue, and we're going to take lessons from here. Some of the outcomes from this, we're going to feed it into the UN Food Systems Pre-Summit, and then as well as the national dialogues that will happen later on during the year. So this has been a very valuable and insightful session. We'll be able to share the outcomes from this session with you and the participants of the session. So thank you very much, and we've put a link to the survey in the chat. Please go to the survey and let us know additional insights of some of the work that you're doing around food, as this will inform some of the outcomes that you want to report back to the UN Food Systems Summit, but then also to the national dialogues that will be happening. So it has been, it's hard to imagine it has been 3 hours, but with those very many words and discussions and commitments and highlights, I would like to please close this dialogue, and we'll keep in touch via email, via phone calls, and please always reach out to us to plan further and in case of other requirements that may come up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.